So I guess in Hawaii, it's okay to break the rules. Now I want to talk about the Civil Beat article that was posted recently about the hit TV show on HGTV, Renovation Aloha, which is about this couple who they go and they buy homes here, they renovate them real fast, and then they flip them, and everybody is all happy. The reporter who did the article, I thought, did a wonderful job on the article. Definitely did not make any friends doing this article, but still, I think that's what makes local journalism, local news quite interesting. I mean, I know it's wonderful to showcase new restaurants and cheap eats, but we have YouTube for that. If I want to know about parades and small sound bites, yeah, I can just go to Instagram. But to do real investigative stories, we're sort of lacking that here. So this article, I thought, just did a wonderful job. And if you're not familiar with what the article was talking about, it's really talking about building permits, at least here on Oahu. And really, the process is very slow. I'm talking super slow, where if you apply for a permit, it could take years to get approval. Yet, in this TV show, they seemingly buy the homes and they start working on the homes, and I just assume that the permits got approved real fast, like they got expedited or something, and then they make the changes and they just go and sell the home real fast. And so from the outside, if you're not familiar with the process, you're just watching this show oh wow, they did such a wonderful job. Everybody is happy. They made the sale. The family who gets the home is so happy. It's all good. It's all wonderful. And it almost makes it seem like the permitting process here on Oahu, at least, is so fast. But for those of us who don't have a television show or are simply trying to follow the rules by applying for building permits, not to flip homes, but to actually live in them, it doesn't really work that way. And I know this because my family, like many other local families who are looking into building because it's so difficult to buy brand new, have to go through the long permitting process. And you may be thinking, well, you just gotta be patient. You just gotta wait your turn and it's all gonna be fine. And I think that's a wonderful sentiment and something that is very valuable to learn. Patience, absolutely. But the thing is, when you're waiting years for the permits to be approved, the costs go up, right? Because you apply for the permit, you get maybe a quote on what something will cost to be built, and you don't know when the permit's gonna be done. So you're just waiting around and waiting around. It could take a year, 2 years. It could take 6 months, but most likely not. And by the time you are ready to build, you get the permit and everything's all good to go, one, you got to make sure you still have money to do this and you can finance it, because you don't know what the interest rates are going to be at that point 2 years out. But two, the guy you're working with, the contractor you're working with, when you set up the permit, their prices may have gone up because the cost of doing work goes up, materials goes up, and so you're not just losing that time where you could build and then you could move in and all that lost opportunity cost. You're losing real dollars, and I think that's something that does get lost in this whole thing. The article does a wonderful job of explaining sort of the situation. I really encourage people to read it. It does a lot of finger pointing, and maybe it doesn't make certain people look so great, but I'm not going to comment on that or place blame or criticism on the host of the show or the permitting department. That's not really what I'm going to do, because it starts to get real personal, and people don't like being attacked. So completely understand. But the sad thing is, and the thing that I think we really should be focused on, is that in cases like this, when it comes to building homes or renovating homes, it seems like what we're saying is that it's okay to just break the rules. And maybe that's not what's being said specifically. Of course, no one's going to go out and say that. No government official, no one's going to go out there and say, yeah, it's okay to just break the rules. But it seems to sort of be implied, right? And sure, the laws can be changed to allow people to build while they're waiting for permits. I'm not sure how safe that's going to be. I'm not sure. I mean, that's a different route, but we could have laws, and they could change those laws. But until that happens, you're not supposed to build until you get the permit, right? Or maybe I'm mistaken. And I think it really just comes down to a simple yes or no, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to come up with all the excuses or all the justifications for yourself as to why you should be able to do that. But until the law changes, I guess the simple question is, does the law apply to everyone or not? And if it doesn't, why not? Now, in the article, they interviewed a council member, and I respect that council member, but I just wanted to highlight a couple things that the council member said. Now, in the interview, Tupola said that the Kalamas, who are the hosts of the show, may have experienced a learning curve when it comes to the permits that they need. If they're saying, we're going to proceed and pay fines, okay, they're rectifying whatever they need to rectify, and they're doing what DPP is asking. That's complying, right? She said. Aside from the Kalamas, I have told this to DPP numerous times. The longer you guys take to expedite these processes, the more people are just not going to come to you. On that first statement, it's great that they're going to comply now. They say they're going to comply now, and that they're going to pay the fines. That's fine. But what about the past actions? Do those things just get overlooked? I mean, is it justified because from now on they're going to follow the rules? I mean, you build your reputation, you get famous, you make when you make money doing something that you're not supposed to do, I guess. But no worries, it's okay because you promise you're not going to do it again. And yes, I think this stuff has probably been happening a lot in Hawaii. It's probably still happening in Hawaii, where contractors are just building without permits. But the thing is, those guys don't have television shows. They're not representing Hawaii nationally, internationally. They're not giving seminars where they charge people on how to flip homes and make money in Hawaii. So perhaps there should be maybe an even higher standard for situations like this, or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they should be treated just like everybody else in that same case. No higher standard just because they have a television show. That's okay. That's wonderful. Then I think the processes for them to get the permits should also be like everybody else in that same light, just to be fair. Imagine if there's a child in high school. Let's just say they go to one of the elite private schools. Let's just say they go Punahou. I'm not picking on Punahou, I'm just saying, okay, it just came up recently in conversation, but I'm not picking on them, okay? This is just an illustration now. So let's say there's this kid that goes Punahou. Now imagine that that child is taking very hard classes and they're involved in all this extracurricular stuff, maybe home life isn't so great, and they realize that in order to keep up with their grades, to do well in school, they gotta cheat on their tests and in writing their papers. And so for years, they do this and they get good grades and they're praised for it, and people are so impressed, wow, they're working so hard. Meanwhile, the other students who are actually studying, they may not get perfect grades like that one student does, but they're keeping up, they're doing okay. And of course, because the student is getting good grades, they're doing really well in school, they get into a good college. Let's say an Ivy League school, and they get some really good scholarships, and everything is all set because they are at the top of their class. They're put in the alumni newsletters, and they're celebrated, and they're just the ideal student, right? But then we find out that the student was cheating all along. Now imagine if your child was one of the students that was in their class, who was actually trying to study the right way, working hard. Maybe they didn't get good grades, but you saw them work hard and they studied. But they didn't get into that right college, that college that the other child did. Maybe they didn't get the scholarship opportunities because, when you're cheating, you get good grades, it's kind of hard to keep up with that, right? Now, as the parent, wouldn't you wonder, what can I do to make this right? And sure, the student can just say, okay, from now on, I promise I'm not going to do them again. I promise. No, sorry. They just say they won't do it again. And second, even if the permitting department takes a long time, does that mean that we're supposed to just bypass it? Because in that second statement, what it sounds like is the blame is being put on the permitting department for Honolulu. And so because it's their fault that they don't got their act together, people are just supposed to go around them, right? That's sort of what it is. I mean, it's sort of like, if the process were better, then my friends wouldn't have to do that. So it's a system's fault, not their fault. So it's your fault that they gotta go and get around it just like that. And so again, I would ask simply, Does government incompetency excuse people who are sidestepping the rules? Now, on principle, the answer is probably no, right? On principle, but in reality, the answer is probably a justifiable yes. And while the hosts of the TV show are probably getting a lot of attention and notoriety, I actually think what they should do, HGTV, if they want to go out and do something, is what they should do is actually find a situation where a person is trying to do it the right way, and maybe the show can help them navigate this whole process. In the article, it talks about this woman from Kailua, which her situation I find extremely relatable. She was trying to apply the right way, right, for a building permit because she wanted to build an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard so her daughter could come and help take care of the dad. And the permit took 2.5 years, and by then, the dad had died. So then the same woman is watching TV, and she sees this show, and she's wondering how these people are able to buy a home so fast, demo it, rebuild it so quickly. Because what took her years to do with the permitting process, it seems like it took them weeks, days. Seems fast. And I know it's reality TV, and timelines are a little, they can be skewed. But for someone waiting 2 years, I mean, you got to ask yourself, did they film this a year ago, 2 years ago? I mean, it doesn't take that long to edit this kind of stuff. So, funny thing is, wouldn't you know that the TV show just happened to buy the house behind this woman's yard? I mean, of all the homes, right? They buy the house behind her house. And then, of course, they start doing work. Now, you can imagine, right? You standing in your backyard, right? You just got your permits. You're just trying to get it started. And you see these guys that you watch on TV. They start working in the house next door right away. They just bought them and then just start working on it. I mean, the chances of that are incredible, right? Now, of course, the applications for the permits for that house, they went in, but it's not approved yet, right? It's probably months and months away. And, frankly, now that they kind of cleaned up that department, right? No more bribes anymore, right? Everybody got to do it the right way, right? No expediting fees, right? As they say. So everybody got to wait now. And the statement from the Kailua woman to me is a little bit sad. She says, now that I know that there are no permits, I just think, what if we were all to do that? I could have gone through my project just because I needed care for my dad. But then I didn't because I'm doing it the right way. These guys are just recklessly doing it their own way. That's not my words, okay? That's this lady who just happens to be living next to the home they're working on right now for this show. But the core question, I think, is what if we were all to do that? I think that's the issue here. Beyond just who is doing what, who is to blame, who gets to blame, why things are the way they are. And it's interesting because we talk about housing like it's this big deal. And it is, like housing crisis, right? We gotta keep our residents here, we gotta find ways to keep them here. But then stuff like this happens? And if the law's gotta be changed to make it easier, hey, that's wonderful. Let's do that the right way. But if some people are shortcutting the process, they're just profiting for themselves. Another thing I think about is what we're teaching our kids. Because in Hawaii, we love to talk about the keiki here, right? We love to talk about the kids. So what are we teaching our kids? That it's okay to not follow the rules, the law, if there's a good, reasonable reason to do so. It could be government inefficiency, so that's their fault. It could be profit, I just want to make more money. Whatever the reason may be, whatever we tell ourselves. That's, I think, what we're saying here. That's what is being demonstrated and coming across. And of course, nobody is saying this, right? No one's actually saying, we're not telling our kids that, right? But we're telling them through the actions. And they may not be old enough yet to understand it. But when that's the family culture, and the kids are smart enough, they're gonna observe things, then that type of thinking mixes in with their values and their beliefs. And for those who are maybe older, and they may be wondering, how come kids these days, they act like that? How come they don't have respect these days? No, act like that. It's not what we're saying necessarily, but it's how we're living our lives. But we really need to make sure that we're ready for the consequences of the message that we're sending to the next generation and to those around us. Of course, none of us are perfect and we all make mistakes. There are big mistakes and I think there are small ones. There are ones that are manini mistakes, petty maybe. And then there are the ones that are very blatant. The ones that are right in front of us, but then we tolerate and we just allow it. If you want a better example, just wait till New Year's Eve this year and all the illegal fireworks that are coming up. You just wait for that. So this is not about being perfect, but this is about setting a good example, especially when it comes to something like housing, where Hawaii is struggling. Now sure, there may be some pushback I can hear already. Well, why you gotta be like that? Or it's none of your business, so stop talking like you know. Okay, can hear that. That's kind of a little personal, but I'm not getting personal here. But if that's the case, where the rules and laws only apply to some people some of the time, then my question is, who gets to determine that? And how far does that reasoning go or can be pushed? I just want to close with this. Every time we find out, or every time I hear that an Olympic athlete cheated to get the gold medal, I feel something in me just gets riled up. Right? And it's not even for money, right? They don't win money. It's just gold, silver, bronze. They're just competing, right? But I think what gets me, I wouldn't even say upset, it just bothers me, right? Is I feel so bad for the athletes who were second, third, fourth, because there's no real justice for them, right? Even if that person who was cheating, who got the gold, right, is stripped of their medal, right? You just say, okay, give it back to us. You're not gold no more. Whoever was second place, third place, fourth place, they can never go back in time and experience getting the medal that they should have gotten, right? You cannot do anything to go back in time anymore. Yeah, you can just give them the medal, but they're not going to be in front of the crowd at the Olympics getting the medal that they should have deserved. Because the show has the word aloha in it, it does make me question the meaning of that word more. Does aloha mean merely kindness, generosity, and all the good stuff, but no respect? No respect for processes, no respect for authority, no respect for others. Fairness. Is that not part of aloha? Again, these are just questions that I'm asking myself. And hey, I'm just one local guy just trying to figure out stuff here in Hawaii. But there's some things that I've been thinking about. So I'd love to know what you have to think. Thanks for watching, and aloha.